Good evening. With the quorum present, I'd like to call the Co-op Budget Committee to order at 6:32 p.m. Tonight's meeting is a regular meeting of the committee, which normally occurs on the fourth Thursday of each month. I'd like to introduce myself, Darlene Mann, and the members present this evening, who include Tony Stanizzi, Brian Rader, Raul Blanchet, and Tom Enright. Dave Blinn, and by phone, we have Melanie LeVake participating. Melanie, at this time, I'd like you to just confirm that it's reasonably impractical for you to participate in person this evening, that you can hear the proceedings, and if you could just confirm if anyone is present with you at this time.
I confirm that I'm unable to get a ride. I broke my ankle, and so I'm taking it from home with my cat, Danny.
Beautiful. Hopefully we don't put your little cat to sleep. So,
You'll get better soon.
yes, hope you're feeling better soon.
Thank you.
Dave Blinn and Tom Solon have excused absences for this evening, and I'd also like to welcome Lance Filmino, our business administrator. If you could all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So at this time, I'm going to ask for any agenda adjustments. I am going to add, right after public input, the acceptance of correspondence to the agenda. And at this point, I'll appoint, are there any other adjustments? Oh, we're welcoming Tom Solon at 6:34. And at this point, are there any other agenda adjustments? Okay. I would like to appoint Raul as the meeting observer. And with the participation of Melanie on by phone, any votes taken this evening have to be by roll call. So at this point, which is typical for our April meeting after the March elections and district meeting, it's time for a reorganization of the board, where we elect a chair and vice chair. So at this point, I'll take nomination for chair.
I'll nominate Darlene Mann as chair.
I second.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Raul. Appreciate that. Any other nominations this evening? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of electing Darlene for chair? One, two, three. Oh, it does have to be
it's a roll call.
Thank you, Raul. Tony?
Brian, yes.
Darlene, yes. Raul?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Thank you. So
And
that's
Melanie.
5. Oh, Melanie.
Yes.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 0. Thank you. And I'll take nominations for vice chair.
I'll nominate Raul for vice chair.
Okay, seconded by Tony. Any other nominations at this time? Seeing none, I'll take the vote. Tony?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Oh, it's for Raul for vice chair.
Okay, thank you.
Tony? Yes.
Brian, yes.
Darlene, yes. Raul?
Do I have to
You,
abstain or?
you can do whatever you want.
I'll say yes.
Okay, great.
Tom, yes.
Tom, yes. Melanie?
Melanie, yes.
Great, thank you. That's 6-0. Congratulations, Raul.
Thank
Thank you all again for your continued support. Moving on to the approval of minutes, we have 2 sets of minutes one is from 2/12, which was the meeting we had in the conference space on the second floor here. We talked about, legislation and various items in advance of the public hearing. So I'll take a motion to approve the minutes of February 12th.
So moved.
From Raul, seconded by Brian. Comments, questions, changes? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. Tony?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Darlene is yes.
Raul, yes.
Tom, am I right?
Yes.
Melanie?
Yes.
Great, 6-0, thank you. And the February 19th joint session and public hearing minutes, if we could move those to the floor from Tony, seconded by Raul. Comments, questions, changes? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. Tony?
Yes.
Brian?
I don't think I was present for that, was I? Or was I?
You can still
I
vote.
think you were at the public hearing.
All right. Yeah, I think I was. So I'll vote yes.
That was with the school board?
Yeah,
Yes.
and we talked through like the petition articles. and
Yes. All right.
positions.
Yep.
Darlene is yes. Raul?
Yes.
Tom,
Tom
yes.
Enright? Yes. Melanie?
Yes.
Great, 6-0. Awesome. Seeing no public present, we can move right through public input and move to acceptance of correspondence. So, it's been a while, but the Budget Committee did receive some correspondence related to, let's see, a note from Christine Egan regarding middle school softball uniforms. Mrs. Bushman was included as the CC on that correspondence and address the concerns to the parent, but I would just like to accept that as correspondence. We'll add it to our minutes. And the second piece was a letter from Caitlin Baker with regard to the discussion taking place at the school board with regard to changes at, into the Performing Arts Department, and as stated in the correspondence, the elimination of the band director position. Superintendent Bergskog responded to this parent, so we did not respond in any way as a budget committee, but I will include this correspondence as and attach it to our minutes. Okay. And where's my agenda? Wonderful. So moving on to the general business portion of our agenda. The first item is a review of the district meeting and some budget planning as we look toward FY28. So I'd like to, first, I think I'd like to just go over where we landed, and then I'll just ask for input on how we think the process went, areas we think we could improve upon, and then as we look forward, any other items that we'd like to focus our attention on. So earlier this afternoon, I did share a quick update with everyone. If you didn't have a chance to see it, it essentially, I took the warrant summary from the annual the district meeting presentation and just updated the number for the SAU budget because the adjusted budget passed and the full budget failed, and made an adjustment to the total warrant as written, which dropped by a few $1,000s to $33,493,837, and that was instead of a 4.2% increase, a 4.1% increase. Just to note that. And from an estimated tax impact perspective, again, the amount was, I think, $9,000, a little over $9,000 to the co-op, split between the two districts. And for each district, the estimated change in the tax impact is kind of a rounding issue, and neither of the estimated tax rates changed as a result of the adjusted budget being approved. And similarly, on the total budget perspective, our estimates held because the swing in the estimated impact was within rounding error on either side of the estimate. So while the total budget was down, I think it was around $20,000, if I'm correct, Lance?
Yes, just under.
Right. The 9,600 that was attributable to the co-op and the amounts attributable to the other districts resulted in, based on, you know, our estimated tax bases and whatnot. Sorry, let me get to that part of this presentation. Yeah. For Hollis in total, across the Hollis School District and the co-op, the tax rate would have swung by half a cent per thousand, and for Brookline, 0.7 cents per thousand. So not even a penny and a half a penny on the other side. So negligible. And again, as an estimate, we'll see how things turn out once unreserved fund balances and, you know, final revenues, costs, and valuations come into play in the fall. So with all that being said, I'd love to have a discussion about how we think the process itself went, and if there are areas for improvement or focus that we'd like to consider as we go into the next cycle.
Well, if you want me to kick it off.
Sure.
It was a successful meeting, except for one aspect where it was totally unsuccessful, and that is having almost a 7-hour meeting. If we continue that way, I don't think we'll have a district meeting much longer. I think we can do better and have to do better on that one aspect. That's the only aspect I'm speaking about. I had a conversation with a guy that I highly respect, Peter Webb, who's the Brookline moderator, and had a lengthy discussion, but the summation that he gave me was, this is a quote, "You can't let the crazies run the meeting." And that didn't hit me as when he said it. The more I thought about it, that was exactly what happened, in my opinion. We started off with an hour-and-a-half discussion on rules. It wasn't entirely about rules, but we didn't get our first article on the table until an hour and a half into the meeting. He indicated that he doesn't talk about the rules. He said the rules have been the rules for years. Here they've been published. If you have any questions, I'll take them. But let's accept the rules and move on. Now, this isn't the preferred way to do it, but if we're going to go till 1 o'clock in the morning, we have to change something. So that's one place I think we could set a goal of getting our. I'm just throwing stuff in the table, and I'm not there. This should be a wider discussion next year, but I'm really upset about it now. Not a second possibility is saying that ballot votes will only be for warrant articles. We had 2 ballot votes on rules that just consumed a huge amount of time before we got going in any business. So all I'm trying to point out is there are ways for us to improve. Maybe not the preferred way to run the meeting, but in my opinion, we have to do something to shut the time period down. And the final possibility I'll give that's come out of my head is that we agree as a community not to introduce any warrant articles after 11 o'clock or a time period like that. And that after 11 o'clock, we simply table the rest of the agenda and go home. And if anybody's upset about that, then the school board or whomever can entertain the idea of additional meetings some other time. We'd have to, adjourn the meeting. So those are, I have other ideas too, but those are the ones that I'll just throw out there. It's just totally unacceptable from my point of view that we run a 1 o'clock meeting, not only from my perspective, but from the way we're treating our constituency and expecting parents to come to meetings and then stay for 7 hours until 1 o'clock in the morning. thank you, my piece is done.
It's very interesting, and I'm 100% in favor of doing anything and everything we can to control the time. I think a lot of the posturing was meant to drag out the meeting to make it as painful as possible. And I agree that's unacceptable. So anything that can be done. But the question really is this kind of discussion should take place with the moderator, because the moderator is the one that's controlling the meeting.
Oh, I totally agree with that, but this is the budget committee. I frankly was going to go to the school board and make this pitch, but they had their meeting early this year, early this month, and I didn't catch that. So this is the soapbox that I have.
What I will do, since you brought up points about the that are largely controlled by the moderator, I will take these points and share them with both the school board and our moderator.
Yeah, I feel I'm sharing it with Tom, and Tom
Yeah.
can do what he wants with it. And definitely the time to, it's the school board and the moderator that have the power, or the most power to do something, and it would be nice if we were in the discussion, but yeah, we're not. I think the school board and the moderator have the ability to do something or nothing. Yeah, I agree.
So I would like to weigh in and echo what Anthony said. It seems like it's purposeful to make this meeting long, to say that we shouldn't have these meetings because they're too long. So the same people who make it long say, this is a con about the meeting because it's too long. So I know there's probably not a lot we can do about that, but I do like the idea of coming up with creative solutions like the ballot votes, only for warrant articles, or just finding other solutions, other ways to make it shorter.
Okay.
Warrant articles that have financial impact.
Well, that was saying is, like, the rules aren't a warrant article, so not allow a ballot vote on a discussion about rules.
Correct, yeah, but only voting on warrant articles that have financial impact.
That's not legal.
No, we have to vote on the warrant articles that are presented. I mean, I think everything we presented from the school board and budget committee did have financial impact, direct financial impact.
But even if it didn't, if it's on the warrant, it has to be brought to the floor. There is the option of tabling or
Yep.
passing over.
But this idea of having a 1 hour vote for every warrant article,
No,
No.
that's what
the
I.
ones that have the 1 hour vote have 1 hour vote by RSA, and those include things like bond article.
Right, financial impact, right?
No,
Yeah.
no, specific
Well-
one. The others may have to have a ballot vote if requested by the right number, but they don't have to remain open for an hour.
Well, the three of the petition articles, that was one of the reasons why the
But by
moderator,
RSA,
yes, because they were of financial impact, and they did have to remain open for an hour. I
So-
personally am frustrated, and I respect individuals' rights to, put forward petitions and things like that. But I think for me, the frustration is that we hold monthly school board and budget committee meetings. The public is welcome. The public can have impact. There was recent public input directed to the school board with regard to test scores. The school board responded. There's a way to have impact and have items brought to the board before a meeting, before the annual meeting, and to discuss the topics and put more publicly, in a more public way, why the district may or may not, the board members or budget committee members might or might not support something. Doesn't prevent anyone from putting in a petition warrant article at the due time, but I just feel like we've entered this phase of, where there tries to be so much legislation, you're trying to have an impact as a legislative body, by just submitting petition warrant article after petition warrant article after petition warrant article. Some of these we've seen for 10 years. And, you know, the real way to affect change is to come to the meetings and engage and, you know, at least, you know, everything's recorded, there are minutes, and at least understand what the boards are doing throughout the year, and not think the only way to affect change is to do it by submitting 25 signatures, you know, a month before March meeting.
One last little piece that also I think speaks to Tony and Melanie is the last 6 years there have been 25 petition warrant articles presented by the same person. All 25 have failed significantly. So arguing about democratic rights doesn't land well with me. The democratic rights, I think, apply more to our constituency and how long they should be expected to come to a meeting.
The things that have changed is the
Could
amount
you
of
speak up a
time.
little bit, Tony, just
Yeah,
so that Melanie
I'm
can
sorry.
hear?
The things that have changed was the amount of time that the speaker to that warrant article gets. It went from like 5 minutes to 10 minutes.
And that's by
By law now.
legislation.
That's legislation.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, so a few thoughts. One is the discussion on the rules. I mean, there's nothing, you know, people can make changes to the rules at the start of the meeting. We haven't seen that in Brookline so much as we saw it in the co-op, but, you know, people can do that. We can have those discussions. There's no particular way, you know, around those discussions. I do think one thing that we might be able to explore to speak is when we do have these ballot votes, the ones that don't last for an hour, or even the ones that do, I think we could have more ballot boxes. What if we had 6 ballot boxes instead of 2? And what if when people registered, instead of just giving one ticket, what if you were given a set of tickets of different colors so that you don't have to go back and get a new ticket for each time and wait in line to get to the ballot box? That could speed things up considerably. What was the other thing? There's also one of the bills that's being tracked right now would require that, and I haven't seen the details of it. I just saw this. I was just told about this on a training the other day. Would require the SB2 petition bills get placed higher up in the order than they are now, so it gets put up somewhere with the budget and dollar figures things brought up earlier in the meeting.
There
So
are
just so
also
you're aware of
bills-
that.
there are-
There's lots of.
Yeah,
Oh,
there are
yeah.
also bills that would require votes on petition warrant articles. There's also a piece of legislation that says 15% of the population in an SB2 community needs to vote. So if you don't have the 15% threshold of your entire registered base, the district would get the budget that it has.
Yeah.
So there are all kinds of different pieces of legislation that
There's
address things like that.
There's legislation for SB2 districts that instead of having a default budget, which is calculated, will instead use the exact same budget as the previous year, despite whatever contracts you might have in place that would alter your expenses.
And there's also one that would
there's-
move the responsibility of the default budget to budget committees.
I think one thing that we're really learning here is that every year the legislature changes the rules. So for example, if one year you adopt SB2, what that means changes from year to year from it. So it becomes worse and worse and worse over time. So what you agreed to in the beginning is not what you're going to end up with at the end. And that's true of not just SB2, but other things as well, as we're discovering in Brookline, because we adopted that provision where you put the tax impacts on the warrant articles for it. And because of that, we're now having to have a special town meeting to reinstate a bond that is now in legal jeopardy because The legislature at the last minute, a few months ago, changed the law that says if you're going to have tax impacts on a bond, you have to have 5 years worth of tax impacts on it. We didn't know about that. So
Was
now
it presented in-
now the bond issue is invalidated, and we have to go back and have a special town meeting to cure the bond issue for it. More expenses involved in that, just
At any-
because of that.
At any time of the discussion of the bond, did any part of the presentation talk about future year impacts at all?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I thought the
I
payment
don't know.
schedule was presented.
There might have been, but it needs to be on the warrant itself was the issue.
Yeah.
It seems that if we have a standardized contract, and it's gonna get voted on every year, why bother? Because,
Standardized contracts aren't voted on every year, it's the non-standardized ones that,
No, but
But-
but like to Brian's point about the calculation of the default, if the
Yes.
legislation passes, it wouldn't matter if it were standardized or not. The default would be calculated in a different way that would not consider contracts. So
Yeah.
those are all the pieces of information that,
so it's almost like advocating for the ability to reset and ignore previous votes.
yes,
We're
yeah.
taking something that works roughly right, and over time, and there are consequences to all these changes and all these suggestions,
There-
and we're making it a lot worse.
They're
Both ways.
intentionally making the
Depends on
towns and
your
the
point of
schools
view.
much more expensive.
The people who are advocating for it are thinking it's better, and the legislature that we have in Concord has a majority of people who think that way. So the question is, who's the majority?
The question is really who's in power. That's a different question from who's the majority.
It's a different question, but there's somewhat of perhaps the same answer. I think that some people underestimate the true objectives of many people. I'll just let you know, Brian, that I asked the question at the registration table when I was getting my card about could we get multiples. The answer I got was no, they are concerned about fraud. That if people had all their ballots and they left, they could give them to other people to vote for them, and they don't have to be at the meeting. That,
I
I'm not
could
saying
see
whether that's
that.
right or wrong.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But we have observers watching one ballot. I mean, I suppose you could somehow.
Yeah,
yeah,
but
but
if
you don't
somebody
know if the
turns around
person
and
goes
gets
to the
a,
back of the line and puts in somebody else's
Or goes to a
ballot
different
the next time
box
they
and-
come up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
or if they put 2 in instead of 1. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah,
saying
it's a
that
fair
was-
point. It's a fair
because
point.
They used to do that.
Yep.
We used to get a rainbow.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
Well, I appreciate all the comments. If anyone thinks of anything later, I will share the information with the moderator, and maybe, we can have a discussion at some point with him as well, and he can maybe explain address some of the concerns and issues with some of the ideas that we talked about tonight.
I do want to,
Darlene, can I just add something?
Sure.
Yeah, it's more about the process in Brookline. If you are in line and somebody moves a question, then the people in line get to speak. And that didn't happen, or doesn't happen at the school meeting, which is kind of unfortunate because people have something to say when they get up there in line. And if they feel like somebody's already said it, they can sit down, but at least they're heard.
Yeah,
So that's just something a few people noticed.
Yeah, I think that was a change in rule this year, and I honestly,
I don't think it was this year. It was, I think we started
prior.
last
I think we've had
year.
that
started
in
last
the
year.
past.
Was that one of the votes? I honestly just lost track of
No,
what we
that
were
was one
voting.
of, that was one of the discussions
Yep.
with the moderator and the rules, and part of it was to shorten the meeting.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because the feeling was that if you to move a question requires a 2/3 vote.
Right.
And if 2/3 of the meeting
Is ready to move.
aren't interested in hearing it,
Mhm.
does that, does a person's desire to speak override that? And it's a question of options, but it was a conscious decision that was made based on a variety of inputs, including a meeting like this.
Yeah.
Prior to, not the most recent meeting, but the meeting before the meeting that occurred in 2025.
Because really, when you look at what we had as a true warrant, it was probably one of the simplest warrants the school board and budget committee have put forward. No bonds, no, basically a continuing contract for support staff and kind of housekeeping articles and things like that. So it should have been a much quicker meeting.
I just wanted to
Yes, go ahead, Tom.
to
So-
say, again, thank you in particular, Darlene. I think the presentation that you made initially was succinct and well presented, but perhaps more importantly, during the rebuttal stages, the information that you presented in answer to the questions really did clarify items for people and had an impact on the understanding and the vote. And I thank you for that.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. And that's the goal every year, is that we present information for people who, come once a year, may have heard some information through a public hearing or reviewed the public hearing presentation, but in person, hearing the explanation. My goal every year is to make something that's, complex and involves a lot of decision points along the way, understandable to people who are not, just don't have the same background that we have, and hoping that they understand it and can make a decision and an informed decision about their vote for that evening. So,
I think one of the key things that you now do is, when a question is asked, rather than give the explanation of the answer, you give the answer, yes or no. Does this mean that? No, it does not mean that. Here's why if you want to know, but the answer is no. That is not correct, that is not true, or yes, that is true, and here is why, but the answer first and foremost is yes or no. And that helps, because when we try to help people learn it, we often confuse them more.
Or we lose them in the discussion.
And the fact that you can make these statements is a testimony to the credibility that you and I think the Budget Committee as a whole has within the community at large.
Let me say that I echo his comments in support of a tremendous show and performance you had in answering questions. And my takeaway from the meeting was that meeting, in my opinion, was hijacked, and we didn't have ways to counter the hijacking process, and that's why it took so long. So I like the suggestions you're making on legal ways to make the meeting shorter, and maybe find a way to shortcut the potential hijacking of the meeting by people.
I just wanted to say, with respect to Drew, I think Drew does an excellent job, so I'm not complaining about Drew at all. So I'd personally rather engage him in a conversation with many people around, so that he doesn't feel like the finger's being pointed at him, because that's not the intention. It's trying to come up with an alternative to having our meeting hijacked.
And to empower him.
Right.
Yeah, no, I mean, Drew, he's got a tough job, and nobody wants to do that, and he stands up and does it. So the fact that I spoke with Peter Webb was not because I went around Drew, it's because I know Peter very well, and he's a moderator, he's a lawyer, so he gets that little piece ticked off. I think lawyers are fairly worthless generally, but Peter's not. I can say that, since
Since he's retired, yes.
The privilege of saying that. Okay.
Great. Well, thank you all. Appreciate all of the input. Looking forward to budget planning and kind of how our agendas roll through this, next year and cycle. I shared with Lance that we typically use the May and June meetings to do a food service and maintenance, facilities maintenance overview. So Lance, I think, is going to move forward with food service in May, and the facilities maintenance CIP discussion in June, and that aligns to some of the work that the business office is doing with, looking at capital projects and things like that, so we'll continue with that. A couple of other areas that, for consideration, is maybe on a monthly basis, looking at some of the information that's available on the DOE website with regard to the I-platform, which has information about test scores, comparable financial data, adequacy aid, cost per people, any of those items, just so that, we're aware of information that's available, how to access it, and more importantly, if we're asked questions, to direct people to those places so that they can understand and have access to data that the state is actually providing. So I had that as an idea. And I did want to circle back to a conversation, Tom Enright, that we started probably last summer, because we are approaching the negotiations for the professional contract in this next cycle. And so I wanted to bring that back around, bring the topic up again, and talk about what items we might want to consider. One of the things I thought of, and this also relates to one of the charts that gets presented at the annual meeting, is the idea of comparable towns and what towns we truly think we should be comparing ourselves to. So the communities that are included in the slide deck we've been using for a long time, and every year I kind of look at the chart and go, oh, is this still the same set of communities we should be using? But I ask myself that, 2 days before the meeting, and it's too late to change anything. So the towns that we currently have been consistently using are for different reasons. They're for proximity to our community. They're towns that we consider competitive from a student and programming perspective, as in addition to other cooperative districts. So there aren't any local cooperative districts that are only, well, that's not true. I was going to say only two towns, but I think Sohegan is,
Mount Vernon.
and Mont Vernon.
I don't know
So
if are they a co-op or are they a tuitioned-in district?
no, I think they're considered a co-op. I don't know. That's a good question to answer. But the ones, so with all of that in mind, the co-ops that I include on the cost per pupil chart are Exeter, which is a many community co-op, Oyster River and Sohegan, and the other towns are Bedford, Milford, Nashua, and Wyndham. We could argue maybe Hudson deserves to be there because we do send students to the CTE program. And I don't know if there are other towns that, from an attrition standpoint, we see our teachers moving toward. I don't know if we've lost teachers to Merrimack or other communities like that. But I just kind of am putting that out there to see if people still think those are the best comparable communities, or if we, how much effort we should put into determining if they are.
I think the criteria that we use to determine why a particular community should be in the chart is maybe what we need to discuss. Are there any other parameters or any other factors that we want to consider?
Mm-hmm.
Are you
And then
talking
determine
only
what the
about
towns
are you only talking about the context of the contract or in the context of overall budgeting?
It can be either, and they can be different. So I would probably say from a contract perspective, we would add in Hollis and Brookline, because it's part of the same SAU, to just compare where the, like, step tables are or other aspects of the contract.
A lot of
But-
that is also dictated by the union. They pick their ones, and we pick ours, and they often are picked for different reasons.
Yes.
True enough.
One of the questions I would think about is if we're trying to compare to a co-op, I can understand that. But does it necessarily have to be a co-op if we're looking at the population of the school and some of the other dynamics being similar to Hollis Brookline as a co-op? So I don't know. I probably thought in the past that it should be a co-op because it's like, but that doesn't really hold water.
And some
because-
of the co-ops aren't just middle school and high school. Some might be just high school, some might be, you know,
K
K to
through
12.
12,
So,
Yeah.
you know, there are different definitions of a co-op. And there are those communities that do tuition in and the other different, you know, aspects. There are different apportionment formulas. There are all kinds of differences, you know, among that. I think there were, I think, 32 co-ops in the state, so.
One other criteria that I was looking at here recently, in looking for comparisons, was in a given school district, in this case, other districts that have a similar ratio of residences to commercial enterprises in terms of where the property taxes go. There's a percentage there of how much percentage is residential property versus commercial property, and that can significantly impact a district's ability to pay the taxes for it.
I once
That
had a
might be a
chart, I never
concern.
used it, but it was, you know, what does, you know, if every community, even this list of communities were to raise $100,000 or $1 million, what does that do to their tax rate? And it's that amount is, the impact of the tax rate is very different in Nashua than here, or
Yep.
Bedford, or, yeah.
Well, and I think to your point, Bedford, I used to think was a good comparison. I don't think it is anymore because they have like 3 times our tax base and most of it's commercial. So they have more money than they know what to do with. So
And we
comparing
know
our-
what to do with that money.
comparing our contracts with their contracts,
Yeah.
I don't think is helpful.
Well, the reason that places like that are used is they constitute a significant competitive market for our teachers.
I understand that, but the fact of the matter is, I think it's a fact, we can't compete with Bedford,
Yeah.
We
I
can't-
think-
but
period.
whether
So
we-
trying to compete with them is a fool's errand.
But the purpose of the benchmarking is not strictly to be competitive, as to just be aware and understand the landscape.
But I think we
make
need to
conscious
take into,
decisions.
Yeah.
we need to take into consideration several different factors. This is one of the factors we should take into consideration.
Yeah, yeah.
Competitive is another.
I mean, if we're
It's
only
gotta be
losing
multiple
teachers to
things that
Bedford,
bring
doesn't
up
mean we're
that
doing
list.
anything wrong.
Yeah,
Means we should get more commercial activity going.
that is a,
On 101 in Brookline.
So maybe
How
one way
many
to compare
13?
is ask
Yeah.
Google, why are people moving to Hollis or why are people moving to Bedford?
it's the,
And you will see what the answers are.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
Yeah, Londonderry's got the airport.
Tom Solon, are you prepared to share the communities that you do use for comparison purposes right now or at some point?
Um,
I'm looking at you, talking about the school board in general when they're
Well-
going through the process.
Are you talking about in the context of the contract?
Yes.
That's, in the past, been generated by the business office. Kelly Seeley created a spreadsheet that we have continued to use. There is, and again, this is different than saying who do we compare to. We collect data on a broad spectrum, and we include try to include information that help us compare by town demographics, by school positioning, I'll call it, sizes, the markets they serve, and we include schools that are local from the standpoint of these are easy alternatives for our teachers.
Yeah.
We don't include Massachusetts because it requires different certification, and it just adds a level of complexity that we can't absorb. The biggest challenge that we have is that most of the information is not complete in terms of total compensation. How they structure their reimbursements and things for healthcare and other things like that, the time off, all of those things, many of them have different structures for things like longevity bonuses and retirement incentives, and these all play into it. But there's a list, you may have it right there, how many different schools are on it. There's probably 20 plus schools on it.
We used a dozen in our most recent round, and part of that.
Was that for elementary, or was that for the co-op?
They overlap for the most part. I think the last time co-op did it, presentation looked like it used 1, 2, 3, 4.
Not the presentation,
So
I'm
maybe
thinking
we
the
should
one
have
that,
some
the one that
correlation.
we used the last contract negotiation. It's not a published one. It was originally created, believe it or not, by the Amherst School District, and Kelly got it from the Amherst School District, who is an anomaly because they do not have a collective bargaining agreement. And they have a really weirdly structured compensation plan. But they did, and I can dig it up, but the short answer is yes, we can put all the schools that we've looked at over historically. But I don't think that's a substitute for a discussion on who do we really want to benchmark against.
Right.
Have you decided who's going to negotiate? Yeah.
Well, we can bring this up again. Tom Enright, we spoke,
I did talk to the board about the request of having a meeting, and there was a great deal of discomfort with that, as much as anything, from the optics of it looking like it was going to be a budget-driven decision, and technically they are not. The budget
No, that was a bad idea of mine.
but I think what it helps
So
do for the budget committee is help us understand even where the co-op stands in relation to, like, the school board is looking at all that data and from a negotiation perspective and making the decisions that it makes. But it's not data we look at as a budget committee to say, like, where does our step table stand? Or do we want to look at the mins and maxes of average salaries and things like that, just to give us a perspective of where the co-op stands?
Because at the end of the day, we want to arrive at a reasonable recommendation.
And one of the things that people want on the board who are familiar with negotiation would like people to understand is salary is probably the last thing we talk about, because there are so many factors that come under the heading of working conditions that lead up to what is an acceptable salary table. And the working conditions include things like the amount of time that people have to be in the building, the time off policies, all sorts of things, the ability to have leave, the ability, for instance, of whether or not sick time, whose sick time can be used for. Is it only for the employee? Is it for family? Is it for extended family? Personal time versus that. I mean, all of these things factor into it. And vacation policy, evaluation plans. so much of it has to be addressed first. In this whole, last negotiations, advisory, when the discussions around advisory were a huge component that probably occupied 25 to 30% of the negotiation time. And so we don't start out talking about what the compensation is. We all know going into it that we're going to get there, and we all know there's budget impact. But for example, things such as policies about substitutes, about compensation for extracurricular activities, all these things, they have a pretty significant impact on the total cost of operating school. They all get rolled into compensation, but it's not purely salary that varies from year to year. So they just want to make sure that people understand that just looking at the salary tables and comparing salary tables really doesn't give you a good picture of all of things, even from a financial standpoint.
Has anyone ever talked about like the averaging, the median,
I can't hear you.
median salary between several schools, or the averages between several schools? Does that help at all? When we said
What we
kids-
tend to do, for instance, when you're doing comparisons, for instance, at the co-op, we'll often look at 5 years with a bachelor's and 10 years with a master's and just compare at those things. But even that has some difficulties because some school districts have tables that go all the way out to PhD, and some only stop at a master's degree as far as their lanes that you can be in. Some have 20 some odd steps, and some have less than 10 steps. So it's tough to do, but yes, we try to look at equivalent positions, and we try to look at two categories: positions that impact the majority of our staff, and positions that are most likely to impact ability to hire.
Okay. So I think one of the things that we can do is I must have it somewhere, a copy of the current contract, which I'm happy to share with everybody, and we can kind of just continue the discussion as we go. Maybe I can.
It is on the website. If you go to
Yep, and
the business office area, there are all the contracts. are
And the
there.
PEL, the
Yes.
New Hampshire PELRB has them all posted for
Mhm.
every community, and every
All
collectively
contracts.
bargained organization is on
Mhm.
the state website, so that's there as well. But I can send links and find that for everybody. Okay. We also do the audit in August. Lance, I think you were here last year when our auditor came. Oh, yeah, he came right after the audit and talked about the prior year's audit. All the audits, the most recent one isn't up yet, but I think there's at least 10 or even more years of history of audits posted on the website as well, just for everyone's information. Okay, so does anyone else have any other topics or things for agenda items to consider? I mean, we're always taking, this isn't the only time that we can talk about potential agenda items. I just wanted to bring it up in case there was anything on anyone's mind about areas. We'll continue to update on legislation. And I did want to mention something I brought up at the Hollis Budget Committee, and I sent some information over to the Brookline Finance Committee, and I wanted to kind of gauge the interest of having a joint Budget and Finance Committee workshop. We did something like this a very long time ago, probably at least 10 years ago, and we just talked about we had a big conversation on the New Hampshire retirement system, and we just talked about, budgeting process and things in general. So an agenda to be decided, not anything that's too long, a couple of hours, but I thought an interesting time of year to do it might be as the school year ends, because legislation will be finalized. And honestly, we could probably talk for a couple of hours about what will have passed and what impact it will have going forward into the upcoming budget cycle. So I just wanted to see if there was any interest in doing something like that. And again, it might be an opportunity to talk about, you know, an in-depth discussion about, you know, how the adequacy formula is developed, or come to some common understanding of analyses, presentation materials, and things that will be put forward, just so that we're, you know, aligned on the same page. I know a finance committee has a different responsibility to the community as a budget committee, but I don't think it precludes anyone from just understanding, learning more, and putting forward ideas. So if a finance committee isn't doing a presentation, maybe they could be making recommendations to the select board that does the presentations or something like that.
Yeah, in Brookline, the Finance Committee has the option of doing their own presentation. In recent years, we kind of haven't, because the Finance Committee and the Select Board have usually been on the same page, and usually the same with the Finance Committee and the School Board, but in years past, the Finance Committee has done their own presentations. I will say that Brendan said that at least he is interested in doing that from the Finance Committee. He hasn't heard back from the other two members of the Finance Committee yet, but I think he's interested at least.
Great, and we can also invite, you know, the business administrators or finance directors as well. I mean, you obviously bring a wealth of knowledge, understanding, and, you know, what type of information is available, can be shared, should be shared, you know, all of those things, and it just, I think, helps them understand the committee members as well. So, we'll, go ahead, Tom.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead, that's fine.
Well, one thing that I'm interested in, given the Hollis District's bond presentation this past year, is more roundtable discussions about what capital projects are sitting out there. I'm aware of what our selectmen, for example, are conjuring in their heads, but this Hollis one is enormous, and there should be a conversation about, you know, should we step aside and let that be the, you know, should we get out of the way as opposed to being in the way for something like that? And if so, how long should we get out of the way? Get out of the way for next year maybe, but that's your window. I mean, I think there should be conversation about that, because that was that $19 million bond was the biggest thing Hollis has ever seen. And I'm not sure that the Hollis School District even knew that or thought about that. But, you know, they got 31% approval, which is another, you know, that's a severe no. I just think we ought to talk about that, and I don't mean to, and obviously include Brookline in terms of what do you got coming along, so that
We have a big one too.
Yeah, so we should, if we've got these, I don't think we've got any big projects, but we should know if it would be helpful and appropriate to kind of get out of the way for a year or a period of time, whatever, to give you a boost.
Yeah, just so in Brookline, where we need several $1 million, we don't know exactly how much, either to completely redo our town hall or to tear it down and build a new town hall. That's the decision that we're looking at right now. It's many millions of dollars, and we have abandoned the town hall right now. There's structural issues there. We're setting up temporary town offices in a business center in Brookline, and we're still working on that. Right now, they're working out of community rooms like this. So that's a huge issue in Brookline right now.
Shouldn't we have conversations where we're all at least aware of this stuff, so that when I'm thinking about it, that's a factor. Whether or not we as a group agree, that might be the way I process.
And that could be something we talk about at the workshop.
Yeah.
Maybe we can
That's
get
what I was thinking, yeah.
And that can be expanded to maybe include the Capital Expenditure Advisory Committee, understand more in depth about their process, what they're putting together, what their plan is
And
for
hear what,
continuing.
and hear what they're saying,
Yeah.
because I didn't really hear much about what they're saying.
Mm-hmm. We do have representation on that. That was Tony. And Rob Mann was the
Well,
school board
no, I
rep.
remember
But-
Tony's input, but,
Yeah, but the
I
out-
mean
seeing the output of
overall
it.
picture piece.
And I would say one of the big plans that was something they really wanted to see was a 10-year view for the schools. Because they have a clear 10-year view for the town of Hollis, but the views for the schools are more like the 5-year view. And so I think information was shared that said, they can move forward with 10-year views. Obviously, you can run bonds out and things like that. You can run our bonds out for 10 years and see where they stand. But it became more an issue for some of those smaller projects, or, if you're looking at an enrollment committee at the primary school, when does that become an issue with the co-op and things like that? But also, looking at rolling stock of equipment for the town level, it's easy for them to push that out over a 10-year period, and they can see when things need to be replaced. And we don't have necessarily in schools the same magnitude of inventory for things like that. So, like I said, it's easy to run our bonds out for 10 years. We obviously know what those amortizations are, but there was, I would say, I could conservatively say, a level of frustration that the school districts kind of weren't planning beyond the 5 years. And I think we did try to share the perspective that it so much drives the prioritization of items by looking at the budget itself. I mean, even looking at the co-op budget that got put up for FY27, there were a lot of capital decisions that were made and things that were taken off the table that will come back for 28 and potentially for 29 as things get reprioritized and shifted. So I think maybe the questions were more like, what's the value to going out 10 years? Because we're still seeing so much movement in the first 5. But kind of, just trying to balance those explanations and understandings, I think, and understanding that would be helpful, so.
Well, he brings up a good point, and that is if there are major
Yeah,
expenditures coming up,
yep,
it's a good idea to look at the whole community, not just us or them independently, because those big proposals will collide, and we cannot afford to have them all be accomplished at the same time.
yep. And if not part of that kind of workshop, we can invite that group to come and at least explain the information that they've gathered to date that was used in the
And
presentations.
just the big
that-
pieces, we don't,
Yeah.
$1 million these days is nothing. It's the,
Speak to your
Okay.
yourself.
it's the, well, I mean, well, we
Big
throw $2
picture.
million at our dump just for the heck of it, but, at our transfer
Transfer
station.
station.
You're in the town
Yes.
budget committee also.
Mhm.
How much is better than guessing
Bless you.
with regard to how many residences will be created in the next 10 years?
I would have to find out about that.
Because,
The-
it's a chicken and egg thing with the 5 years in the schools. So much of that is an enrollment question. And the reason 5 years has been used in my time frame is the level of confidence in the NESDEC enrollment projections. Of a big variable is the assumptions of how many new homes and other things. So what's the likelihood of a change? Because there's a certain assumption, right or wrong, that the number of children for the current housing allotment is going to be relatively steady. There's some turnover as people age out, their kids drop off, but then some get turned over and new families come in.
One way to calculate
But-
that, if
but-
you want
but the-
local data, I
But
have
the
a
big
different
thing
one.
is, I don't know if there is a plan. I don't think a few years ago in Brookline, people really thought that we were going to get 50 and 100 resident developments going into Brookline, and now we have, I don't know what's the combined number for the 5 new developments, and some of them are over 50, but not all of them.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, the big one right now is the
age
work.
over 50,
Yeah.
quantity over 50.
Oh,
No, but
Age 50. Well, the
but
quantity
some of
is
them are
units
over
as well
50 in
over.
quantity, I think, in time.
Okay, so the big development there, I mean, they're building the workforce housing part of that now. I forget exactly how many units that is, 30 some odd, something like
30 to
that.
40.
30 or 40, whatnot. Those are under construction. I expect them to be finished this year. There's another 60 some odd units of housing for older persons back behind it. And then there's at least 3 other housing for older persons developments that are in various stages, plus the normal development as well. So
You know, so we're seeing,
It's all
big additions, and I
very
don't know
big,
if
yep.
Hollis has that, but if we had some insight to that, that might increase at least the ability to hypothesize.
Okay.
Did over last year, and I'm not sure if this particular statistic is accurate this time, but knowing how many building permits are out there, there was 250 building permits in Hollis. Workforce housing was kind of defeated a few years ago, because we just don't have the facility for workforce housing. Things like medical, things that people need when they're living in that kind of environment. So that didn't quite work out.
Careful,
yeah,
Huh? What's that?
careful.
it technically didn't work out in Brookline either until the lawsuit came around. A couple of $1 million later, we now have workforce housing, and a very significant, unprecedented development going
Things
on.
like access to medical, sidewalks where people can walk.
No, we're-
None of those things exist. in
Those aren't,
Hollis.
those aren't
Those
required
aren't requirement.
They-
for workforce housing.
Yeah.
They're not required, but
No.
if you look at workforce housing, wherever they are, they have those kinds of facilities. Access
Not
to-
necessarily.
Well,
Anyway, I think we're getting
those
off
are all
topic
things
now.
that people look
Can I
for.
add something?
Sure, Melanie, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm wondering what you all think about having a group come in and give a seminar, like the New Hampshire, let's see.
Fiscal Policy Institute.
They have some really good programs on understanding property taxes and education funding. They just need a group to sponsor it. There's also another group that works with fair funding of education. And if our school boards and budget committees from both of our towns were to sponsor some of that, something like that, I think that it would be really helpful for our residents to understand, you know, how we get these property taxes, why are they so high? And the Fiscal Policy Institute is a nonpartisan group, and they're just trying to give us the facts. So it's something to think about and hopefully do.
Melanie, wasn't there, I think there was a presentation, today's Thursday, yesterday?
Yes.
I
was in on that, yeah.
I think I can get everybody the link. I think they put the presentations online. I was not able to.
Where was the presentation?
It was sponsored by the Fiscal Policy Institute.
Is that the thing
And
you sent the link around to?
did I send the link about that?
Yeah, you did, I
sent
think.
Okay,
That it
yes.
was going to happen, not a replay or anything.
Yes, it was examining New Hampshire's property tax, examining New Hampshire's property tax. So it is available on their website. They do post it after they present it, so we can, and I think it said it was like part 3 of a series. I wasn't aware of the other ones, but,
What I was
Yeah.
gonna say earlier on that topic, and I'll be very brief, is, I did a 3-year look into Hollis and registrations, and, the Hollis population grew per year on average between 100 and 150 people, if you look at, over time. So that's the typical change in the voter list. associated with Hollis. And if you assume about 20% are underage, so you could take, say, a maximum of 450, 20% of that is what you're gonna see in terms of a change in population that potentially could be going to the school, going through the school system. So there may be some statistics if anybody wants to spend time to come up with a rough estimate.
The last census, the
Huh?
10-year census, showed that about 22% of the population in
Are
Hollis
under
were
18.
under 18
Right.
years old.
20%?
About
22%.
22%.
That's it?
That's it.
Wow. Does Hollis have a growth ordinance?
We used to.
No idea.
Not,
You don't know?
everything has to go through a committee and gets approved, but I'm not
No,
sure.
I
if
mean,
growth-
Brookline had one when I moved in, disappeared, they reinstituted one, and then last time they voted not to institute.
Yeah, I mean, there was a growth ordinance there for a while, went away. We do still require 2 acres per
No, it was
per
more the thing when
building.
they could only issue 2
So many
permits per
permits a year.
development a
Yes,
year.
Yeah.
yeah, we had that for a few years there. That has gone away. It was subject to various requirements.
court
I
Yes.
mean, Hollis definitely had that. I don't know where that stands now.
It used to be 4 or 5 a year per development.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's changed, so.
Just to add to
Yep.
that, the advisory committee to the select board has a view of all the entities, the businesses in town that work for the town, like, Public Works and, different buildings.
All the departments.
All of the departments, and you can look at a view of each one of them, including the schools. Then you can look at them cumulatively for the next, well, they want to go out 10 years, but it's not. It's maybe 5 years with most of the focus on the next 3 years. And then the select board looks at it and says, oh, my word, we've got all these other things coming in. So they do have a view of that now, since the advisory committee has been working on it last year. And I think it helps them to plan things like bonds and expenditures, what to put off and what to move forward, those sorts of things.
Okay, we can get more information on.
So we're gonna
all
need
those
2
topics.
meetings a month,
We're-
apparently.
At this point, yes, so.
We keep
Should-
getting on
shouldn't we
these
adjourn this
topics.
meeting?
I'm desperate to make sure we stay within the 2 hours as well. So, the great ideas that were shared, great follow-up items to check into.
We're all full of it.
And that's the way we should be starting the new year. So I'd like to, in the interest of time and looking at what's left, I'd like to move on to the last items, the next 2 items on the agenda, which are the financial update from our business administrator and then the school board update.
Sure. The first piece is a little bit of an update on the business office and staffing. Some of you may have heard Linda Sherwood submitted for her retirement. Her last day will be June 3rd. She's a director of business operations, and she does a lot with the co-op in particular. She's leaving big shoes to fill. She'll be moving to Nashville to be closer to family, and so we're really happy for her, but we're really sad to see her go. We're trying to squeeze every bit of knowledge out of her that we can before that day. We do have the position posted as an assistant business administrator. Depending on what applications look like and what hires potentially look like, likely might need to be some adjusting within the business office. Seems historically kind of unlikely that you have somebody walk in with a lot of really specific experience, so there'll be some training involved. So we're currently fielding applications on that. So sad to see her go, but we are happy for her. She's been in the business office for 10 years and I think in the district for about 17 years. So she actually started as a paraprofessional, so, or at least within the SAU. So little update from the farmhouse. Shared out revenue and expense report. I think next month's and following that will be the really telling ones, just as we wrap up encumbrances as we head towards the end of the fiscal year. If I just start at the end and kind of work backwards, right now projected fund balance is $745,716 In general, with expenses, underruns in almost every category. The only exception to that is a small overrun in vocational programming, and that there was just more enrollment than we anticipated when doing the budgeting. Big underruns in regular education, 323,000 and change. Some hiring savings and vacancies, also fewer lane changes. We budget based on what staff anticipates will happen, and sometimes they don't quite make it. In addition to that, special ed savings, some out-of-district changes for student needs resulted in some large savings there, also with contracted services. And both of those items kind of carry over into transportation, some savings in transportation, primarily due to special ed reasons.
What drives the change in the SAU assessment and school board budget?
For
Well, we've got over 100,000.
that's
Is that just change in salaries?
primarily the contingency fund not being used. Yep. Good question. And also benefits. Again, if we're saving in hiring, we save in benefits, taxes and retirements for vacancies, and when we plan for new hires, we kind of pick a middle tier candidate, and by chance more came in with less experience or education. So big things driving that large balance in expenses. Revenues are slightly in excess of the budget, but nothing too dramatic. Overall, 176,000. It's kind of the highlights of the revenue and expense report.
And the estimated retained fund balance is right around where it is now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So continuing kind of at
Yeah,
that same level?
We use that same number as a placeholder right now.
Yep. There are several pieces of legislation that address the retained fund balance as well. So some of them are going to make
How
it
can that be?
make it go away. Some of them make it
found
be
it.
voted on annually. All kinds of great stuff. So
If you can't get it done with the
lower- and
warrant
lowering
article,
the
try
thresh-
changing the laws.
and lowering the threshold to a maximum of 5, which we are not at as a district, to I think a maximum of 3. I think those were the 3 big highlights on retained fund balance. Anyway, I digress. Any other questions for Lance?
I think the only other piece, Tom, were you going to talk about kind of class size and some of the staffing
Mhm.
pieces? Okay.
So I did want to just mention the things that are upcoming, kind of in the May, June timeframe. Do you talk about, I think you bring to the board, you have a public hearing on, what is the topic at this time of year? Oh, what is it?
Well,
What-
spending from the fund balance as far as
Yeah, no, not that. There was another one.
on.
Anyway, but you usually, no, there's something that, oh, what is it? It'll come to me as soon as the
You've
meeting's
forgotten
over.
something?
I know, can you believe it?
Maybe,
Um,
while he speaks, you can think about it.
Was it spending from the maintenance trust, or,
We do usually bring that up, yeah.
yeah,
in-
at this
in
time of
May,
year?
think
Oh, I
typically,
did
yes.
remember. It just wasn't crystal clear, Tom. So that'll come up, and then, yeah, you'll talk through encumbrances, potential projects, and things like that. So, okay. Great, thank you. And we'll look to Tom Solon for a school board update.
Just real quickly, it's not specifically on here, but from the facility standpoint, we're on schedule with what's been going on here at the middle school. All of the purchases for the solar upgrades have been completed, and the materials are on site, which will meet the requirements for the rebates, assuming the rebates don't get changed again. So we're expecting that. You can't apply for them until the work is complete. So the goal is to get the solar install done on the high school this summer, which would allow us to apply for those rebates when that's complete. One of the discussions taking place is what we would do with the rebates, because when it was originally discussed and we were looking in the context of a lease, we could prepay principal. But with a bond, we cannot prepay principal, and we've been also told that we cannot pay off early. So the question is, do we want to take that, assuming we get a rebate, which is a chunk of money, do we want to take it and use it immediately to decrease a budget in a given year? Do we put it in what now exist as reasonable interest-bearing savings vehicles and then parse out to decrease, to offset the bond payments over the course of X number of years, which is more along the lines of what we envisioned happening if we could have prepaid principal. So we're going to be looking at that. It's premature to make a decision because we don't have the rebates yet, but we're already looking at how we can use that, and that may well be a discussion in the upcoming budget season, because it potentially could be money that is available in fiscal year 28.
I would encourage a conversation with the auditor as well.
Yeah, I don't know who they've been talking with, but
Perfect.
they've been having that conversation.
Great.
We want to keep in context what we learned in the district meetings, and that is, for the first time in recent past, the co-op budget passed by a very small margin. The SAU budget did not pass. The Brookline school budget did not pass, and to the tune of $400,000 shy of what was proposed. In Hollis, a very large bond was shot down. In Brookline, efforts to fund work on the town hall for a number of reasons, and some of them, in my opinion, very legitimate. It didn't, but the net impact of the impression is fiscal conservatism has definitely seemed to have grown. Layer onto that the ongoing uncertainty about open enrollment in the state of New Hampshire and how it will be implemented beyond where it is now and how it would be funded makes it very risky for a school district to appear to be way over capacity. Now, we don't feel our district is way over capacity, but what we have seen is that we do run small class sizes because of changes in choices in classes, and it results in, well, you can't get rid, I shouldn't say you can't. We generally do not want to eliminate a period of a position, because when you move a staff member from full-time to part-time, for many staff members, that's not a tenable change because they lose their eligibility for benefits, their income drops. Gone are the days when I was a kid when teaching positions were thought of as extra income in a household. That ain't the case. The net result is we're taking a continuing look at class sizes and making a concerted effort to not run exceptionally small classes, because Number one, there's efficiencies and costs involved with doing so. Number two, it leaves you vulnerable for some of the potential open enrollment situations to be forced by law to take in students without, some of the proposals would have the funding come in at about a third of our per pupil cost. So we want to make sure that we're using our classes efficiently. Towards that end, there are likely to be changes seen in the staffing that positions that are not vacancies that we get because of retirements or resignations are being looked closely at. Do they need to be filled? So we're seeing that. In the situation of a very public discussion about our music program, I want to be clear that the enrollment has been dropping in those classes dramatically in the last 5 years. I mean, you go from double digits to single digit enrollment in some of the classes. And we've made efforts to allow staff members to pick up other coursework, but we've run into a situation where the teachers just aren't certified to teach other things where they're available. The net result is we are not eliminating any courses from our offerings, but if courses are under-enrolled, we may not run them in a given year.
Will you explain what under-enrolled means? Give me a number.
It depends on the policy.
5,
and we're gonna
10?
less than 10, sometimes less than 5. See, what happens is the students
No, I
say
know.
what they want to take, but when the schedule actually comes out, they can't always mesh. And then in the first week, they find out that they don't either want to be in it or it cause a conflict, and they pull out. We don't know all of the reasons around what's going on in the music program, but the net result is we just don't have the demand to keep 2 staff members occupied in that. We're not eliminating the position of band director, but the person who was the band director is for lack of a better word, was the vulnerable person in a reduction in force. And it's on, we're not changing things programmatically, but we are consolidating staff where we can't justify it based on the students' choices of what classes they will be taking. So for example, courses that we might in the past have run 2 competing electives at a smaller level in the same year, we may switch them off. One year you offer this one, the next year you offer the other one. And we're going to be looking at our policy on class size, because the way that we have structured, we have a maximum and we have a target, and there's some ambiguity in there. We're concerned about the impact that would have if an enrollment strategy is forced upon us by open enrollment that says, do you have capacity, yes or no? Well, you have 2 different numbers. If we say this is where we want and this is what's best for our students, but we have a maximum number that would allow them to be larger than we want them to be, that could create a vulnerability. So we really want to understand how we define it and what it's good for. At the same time, it's become evident through small class sizes that certain classes do not work well when they're small, despite, it's one thing to have one-on-one tutoring, but when you've got a class that relies on discussion and things like this, and you've got 2 kids absent because they're doing something, all of a sudden the functionality of that class drops dramatically. If you've got 9 kids and you lose 2, that's a lot different than when you have 21 and you lose 2. So these are all the kind of considerations, but the decision that was made in the in the music department was not a budgetary one. Our overall look at class sizes and things like that does have a budgetary component,
Yeah.
but that particular one was driven heavily by lack of expressed interest through selection by the students.
And so the school board is going to have a further discussion about that topic at your May meeting, is that correct?
I don't know how much of a discussion there's going to be. Some of it may be based on public appearance. I do believe there's going to be a presentation by the administration talking about the overarching issue of class size and enrollment. It's not directed specifically at the music thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we're having that, and we're having policy discussions. It was already introduced last month, and we're having policy discussions on the class size policy. And like all policy discussions, when possible, there's at least 3 readings. So there'll be an initial presentation, which will be first readings, second reading, and then, if possible, third and adopt is the normal sequence. The goal being that we have that completed in time to impact any decisions that need to be implemented for the next school year.
Just had a question, because I've heard a couple of things about students taking courses during the summer. A summer school course, let's say in calculus, so they can concentrate on it during the summer and only take one course. That'll affect classes during the school year. So that's one aspect that we be seeing drops and things like that. And then online classes, I see that there's a,
Well, the classes in the summer, we lump those together with an online class. It's something that we're not delivering.
okay, because I know that some kids are taking online classes different times, and I can't say they're taking easier classes, but they're taking classes to free up time during the school year, maybe to take a more challenging class like chemistry, and can focus more on that if they get some of the easier stuff done, maybe online.
Often it's not easier, but it's to get a prerequisite out of the way oftentimes
Something,
too.
yeah.
I mean, the online courses, many of them are significant, especially the VLAX program. They offer some excellent courses for students who work well in that environment. It's a terrific option.
Exactly. I didn't want to imply that I knew all
Yep.
of the reasons, except that if students are doing those sorts of things, that means that there is a class empty of one student during the school year if they're doing an online or taking
Yep.
something like calculus during the summer.
It's usually
whatever
not a
it is.
surprise though, Tony, because oftentimes if they're doing that, they are doing it because they want to enroll in something in the fall. So the summertime aspect of it is usually planned and coordinated within the school. The bigger things that impact us are people who enter and leave the district during the summer, and that often can be a swing of 10 students.
Are you seeing a big shift in the numbers of students that go to this CTE programs?
We're seeing a growth in it. It's worked out well. The change in the CTE program from our standpoint has been that Milford is no longer part of the group that we send to because we couldn't coordinate schedules with them. So we use primarily Nashua, Hudson. I'm not sure if is it Conval? There's one other that has a program that's specific. The other thing that's been helpful is that we, a couple of years ago, purchased another van. And we now have, by consolidating and having controlled transportation, they've made it a lot more convenient for the kids. And the state actually mandates that if you're going to set up a program, you have to coordinate schedules so that the students from area schools miss no more than 10 classes a year in it, and that has helped a lot. It's got the superintendents talking to one another. I was just at a at a regional advisory committee 2 days ago, and over in Alvern, and the enrollments are up. The programs are becoming amazing. There's a lot of options for dual enrollment, for certifications and college credit. It's really taken a step up, and there's a concerted effort to make it more accessible to our students, particularly ones who had not traditionally considered it, which is the kids who are college bound. They viewed it as the old days, like vocational tech. You've got engineering classes, you've got biomedical classes, you've got basically pre-med courses going on, computer science, all sorts of activities going on.
In Alvarine, the pre-vet programs
Yep.
are phenomenal.
Yep.
Just add that, because it's not just to learn about animals, it's prepping kids to apply to colleges,
Yep.
pre-vet type of program.
I think it's the only one in the state that's certified.
It's excellent.
Wow.
Thanks, Tom. I know we all appreciate all that information. I think the May meeting will be interesting as well to either listen in on or attend. I did want to you mentioned open enrollment. There was some activity today. I don't know if you're aware.
I heard that something got voted down and something got tabled,
Okay,
but we
the
don't know
same
which
thing
one.
got voted down and
At the
tabled.
state level?
So the House
It's a Senate
voted
bill.
101 that had moved over to the House and gone through some amendment, and that amendment included the funding arrangement to equal anyone who was moving between schools to be reimbursed by the state at the same value as a charter school student, which is around the net of about $9,000, so that third of, that bill was voted down, and there was a subsequent vote to table it. I don't know why it got voted down and then tabled. So the vote was for the open enrollment bill itself was in the 160 range, yes, and the 180 range, no. The vote to table was resoundingly yes to table it, like over 300 to like 30 something. I believe the tabling held through the close of the session today. I don't know what that means for the future. There is another bill that was a non-germane amendment to like a Health and Human Services bill that addresses open enrollment at the original funding level, which is 80% of cost per pupil, with the parents paying the other 20%. That is still out there. So I don't know, as a result of the tabling, if it can still come off the table later, if it could be added as part of an omnibus, or really how it moves from here. But that was what happened today.
Yeah, so, when you've got a bill where there's a vote to pass it and that vote fails by a decent enough margin, they typically will either vote to defeat the bill if it's something important, or if it's something particularly sensitive electorally speaking, they may just table it as a way of killing it without directly voting
Okay.
against it. It's basically an acknowledgement they don't have the votes for it.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that topic can't come back in some other form in some other bill, and maybe it will have the votes to pass if it's just done a little bit differently. Who knows? I'd say that thing is, that one is dead, but that doesn't mean the topic won't
topic
come
is
back.
If that second one goes through, that was the one we had been planning on a lot.
Yes.
And that is less a monetary issue as a capacity issue. And that's the one that triggered some of the construction of the warrant articles
Yes.
that were voted on in various districts this year.
Yeah, if I could add to that, an article just came across my screen about adding that as as a non-germane amendment to the healthcare bill that you had referenced, Darlene. So, yeah, and one of the quotes was that they were glad that it still has an opportunity to pass through this amendment. Look out.
So there'll be a lot happening over the next 6 weeks or so to pay attention to. So, okay, great. Thanks, Tom. Does anyone else have any questions for Tom or any other items at this point?
No.
We've talked a lot about agenda building.
Thank you, Tom.
I did share one more, just quick item. I did share the calendar with everybody, just in the hopes of everyone can kind of see things for the year. We'll continue to meet.
Can I just make a comment?
Yep.
You may hear rumblings that because Memorial Day is so late and the professional staff contract requires that school not be started before Labor Day, with the 5 snow days that get built into the calendar, it runs late into June, and some people are unhappy about that.
So I'm trying to, first day for all students. Okay, so I did notice the late date, and I was using it more for scheduling of our meetings, which will be 4th Thursdays. So we have a 4th Thursday, and we will not meet in July. We'll have a 4th Thursday in August, September, October. November, we'll have to shift our meeting date, and December, because of the holidays, as is typical. January, we'll meet right in advance of the public hearing, which will be sometime in probably the first half of February. We'll go through our March meeting dates. We will have another 4th Thursday in April of next year. Sometimes the date falls typically over school vacation week, but we will have a 4th Wednesday just like we have this year, and similarly for May and June. So we really only need to shift things for November and December. I just wanted to mention that.
So next month, the 28th.
Yes, next month, the 28th, yes.
So if we're having some of these joint workshops,
Mhm.
other
28th?
districts, do you have any idea as to when?
No, not yet.
You have-
Yeah,
okay.
that's what I had.
Hopefully, maybe in June. I
Okay.
want to stay away from the summer.
All right.
And since the 4th Thursday of August is the 27th, we get through, we'll meet in June, hopefully have a workshop sometime in June, and then be off for the summer essentially,
Just so you know, I'm going to be unavailable the
28th.
28th.
of May.
We should
Of May,
do
yep.
it before that.
No,
I was thinking the 3rd because I school
Oh,
board's 3rd.
yeah.
Okay, great. That's all I have to say for tonight. I'll look to, unless anyone has anything else, I'll look to Raul for a readout.
I thought we had some great discussions on some interesting topics that are very pertinent. And I thought we had a good use of our time, and everybody was pretty disciplined.
Excellent. So at this point, I'll take a motion to adjourn at 8:15 p.m.
So moved.
from Brian, seconded by Melanie.
Yes.
Tony, I have to do a roll call.
Yes.
Tony, yes.
Brian, yes.
Darlene, yes.
Yes.
Tom, yes.
Melanie?
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
We don't
6-0.
count, but we vote yes too.
We appreciate that you vote yes, Tom, Solon, and Lance. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.